Yo, 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 yo. What's up, all you burners, stoners, and potheads? This is Weedman 420 with the Weedman 420 Chronicles. How are all you vipers doing out there? Mrs Weedman.
Mr. Weedman.
How the hell are you?
Fantastic.
I know why you're fantastic.
Why?
Because your math skills were working today and
my
you're
God,
finally
they were
done.
not. No, they weren't.
You know what we need to do right now? Before we even start talking about anything, you need to light that joint up.
My role today in life was being an accountant and a banker. And those are not things that I love doing. So all day long I've been working with
It's not your
numbers.
speciality.
I could not get my numbers to balance. There's an $84. Honestly, I don't even know if it was a deficit or overage. I don't even. It was just $84. I could not figure out where it freaking belonged.
Mrs. Weedman, Mrs. Weedman.
I need weed. Right
So
now.
light up that.
It's time.
Light up that joint.
All right.
And that joint today is a special joint because the wrap is a goji wrap given to us by the Real Spliff Society. And I'd like to thank our friend Briggs, a friend of the show, gave us some wraps, and I'd like to thank you, Briggs. And
Thank
also,
you.
his account someone tried to hack his account. So I'm also giving him a shout out to protect your accounts out there. Briggs, I'm glad your account didn't get hacked. I'm glad you're all good, brother, and someone didn't steal your identity. But thank you for the goji wrap. I really do like it. I rolled a big fatty, and it's filled with a strain called Kush Mints. And it's an evenly balanced hybrid of 50-50 created through the potent cross of classics Bubba Kush and Animal Mints. Perfect for any fan of super minty flavor. Kush Mint brings a well-balanced effects that hit both mind, body with a high level of potency thanks to its super heavy average between 22 and 24% of THC level. Kush Mints has a fabulously sharp, minty taste with hints of fresh coffee and earthly cookies to it. The aroma is of earthly sweet woods and rice, spicy coffee, and heavy kick of mint. The Kush Mint high isn't quite as eye-opening as the flavor, with the relaxing effects that will have you kicking back and pretty sleepy if you're not careful. It starts with a warming tingling in the spine, filling you with a sense of deep, permeating relaxation that ebbs and flows outwards through your limbs until you are totally calm in both mind and body. With these effects and its high level of potency, Kush Mints is said to be perfect for treating conditions such as chronic pain, depression, chronic fatigue, and nausea, or appetite loss. This bud has a fluffy, oversized piece of forest green nugs with the rich amber undertones, matching hairs, and a coating of sparkling, clear crystal trichlomes. This bud here had a lot of purple in it, too. I was very impressed with all the purple these nugs had in them. The effects: body high, cerebral, hungry, relaxing, tingly, and uplifting. Appetite loss, chronic pain, depression, fatigue, nausea. Coffee flavors, herbal, sweet, and woody. And the aromas of coffee, earthy, herbally, spicy, and woody. Hi, Yuki. She's hanging out tonight with us in the show, doing a great job here, being our mascot.
Spicy for sure.
Spicy? Can I have a hit?
I taste the earthy, spicy end of it.
Nice. So, while I'm taking a hit of this, Mrs. Weedman's going to tell you about our Thanksgiving week.
Yeah, we had a kind of a nonstop long weekend. I had a cousin in from Germany, and so I haven't seen her.
Germany.
It's been a minute. So, despite that, there's just regular...
That was an interesting conversation we had with her about cannabis at the table.
Yeah?
And I had mentioned to her, I said, hey, super stoked.
Mm-hmm.
Germany making it legal. And she just looked at me like, all you do is smell it everywhere. And I was like, what? That's a great thing. Smell it everywhere. And she gave me a look, and I'm like, well, she goes, I used to smoke, and I don't like smoking anymore because I used to smoke a lot of cigarettes, and it leads me back to smoking cigarettes.
She was afraid that smoking weed... She didn't seem to be bothered by smoking weed, but she was concerned that smoking weed would make her want to smoke cigarettes again.
Right.
And so she just won't touch it. And we're like, oh, then just try edibles. And then the subject changed. We never really wrapped that up.
Never went back. But I did give Germany a shout out. I did give Germany a good shout out. And so happy that they are totally going legal. And but there was some other interesting conversation at the dinner table.
There were all sorts of interesting conversations. There was one that got kind of a little feisty.
Yes.
A couple of my sisters having words. Nothing angry, but just very strong opinions about maybe a controversial subject.
Yes, very controversial.
Yeah, we had to put the fire out there.
We had to separate the two for a minute. I took one out to the
your
garage.
Corners, I did a ding, 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 ding.
And I took one out to the garage and got her baked and made everything all better.
Yeah. And then it was kind of like the whole cousins Thanksgiving weed walk because all of a sudden everybody's gone. Everybody's gone. Like, where did everybody go? Everybody left.
We left you.
And so there were like 4 people at the table still. And everybody was in the garage smoking weed.
Yep.
Because then within about 10 minutes after the door opened and closed a few times, it smelled like a hot box in the house. The whole house smelled like weed.
We didn't open
Nobody said anything, though.
No.
I'm surprised.
The looks probably were funny, but I mean, we smoked
cares.
a bunch of honkers out there, boy. That garage was one big cloud, and we didn't open the garage door at first to let the smoke out.
Yeah,
we
there were
hotboxed
some
the hell out of it.
heavy eyelids at the table after that.
Oh, shit. Yeah, it was good. It was a good Thanksgiving. We also got to play whirly ball on Friday, and Mr. Weedman won the game.
Yeah.
Scored a 3-pointer with 3.5 seconds left. I beat them all.
Yeah.
I beat them all.
One of the nephews brought his buddy from high school, and took a minute for that kid to really, not to catch on so much, but there's... if you've never played whirly ball, you're on basically like a magnetic field. You're in essentially bumper cars, but they don't have the pole that goes to the ceiling. It's the floor that moves them. So you're in bumper cars. You have one control. It's not a steering wheel, and you spin it left or right to go left or right, and 360 degrees to turn around. So it takes a minute to get the maneuvering down. And then in your other hand, you have a, like those Nerf, like the sling, the plastic net handle, it's like a kind of lacrosse kind of
looking.
Yeah, like
it's
a scoop.
basket.
Like a basket,
they
like
call
a
it
scoop,
basket
right?
Scoop.
And then you have like an oversized wiffle ball. And then at either end of the court are at basketball height, they are like a hole and a backboard, the size of kind of a basketball hoop, but there's not a hoop, it's a hole. And so your objective is to get your team's ball, when you have possession of the ball, hit the backboard for 2 points, hit the hole for 3 points. No?
1 point backboard, 2 points hole, half court or beyond, it's 3 points.
Oh, 3 points. Okay. Well, see, I didn't even know what I was doing. But so anyway, you're trying to pass the ball. People are crashing into you. It's really, really fun. It can be pretty fast depending on how well everyone's maneuvering. So this kid, now he's getting a little cocky. He's making some shots. Now he's getting really cocky.
And Mr. Weedman knows how to play.
Yeah, Mr. Weedman used to play with his company. That was like their frequent flyer, like corporate meeting place.
Yeah.
So they went there all the time. So he got really good. So this kid wasn't really catching on that he had to watch out for Mr. Weedman as a player. Like he wasn't catching on that he had competition because I think he was just so excited that he had figured it out. And so like 2 seconds left on the clock. And
he scores the winning game at 10 seconds left. And then all of a sudden there's 3.5 seconds left. That's left on the clock. And it's red ball. We're the red team. And he hands me the ball.
He hands him the ball of all the players he's surrounded by. Because you can't. He caught the ball on a rebound. And he passes it off to Mr. Weedman. Everyone's like, no way.
And
he just turns
half
around.
Court,
and
from half court.
Yeah.
Scored it right in the hole and got 3 points and won the game.
And won the game.
10-7.
The kid did not know what even happened. Nobody knew it happened. Like, how did that even happen?
And Mr. Weedman went nuts.
Yes. Yeah.
Ran all around
there
the
was
court.
a victory dance, that's for sure.
It was a good one.
That was fun.
It was a good time.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Oh, we were watching The Handmaid's Tale. We watched 2 episodes, man. Some good stuff.
Gosh.
If you haven't watched this new season yet, go ahead and watch it. It was some like mind fuck games going on.
It's frustrating.
Yeah, it's really good. So I'm pretty high.
I'm pretty high.
Are you feeling better now?
Yeah.
Your math is out of your equation?
I forgot all about math.
Good. Let's start the show then, Mrs. Weedman. You ready?
I'm ready.
Everybody out there better smoke some big fat doinks while you're listening. So
what's math?
Who the fuck are these people?
I don't know.
I'm going to let you know right now. This is a heartfelt, this is the journalist, this is the writer, okay? This is a heartfelt message to all the smiling new faces of the cannabis industry currently ironing their best suits, finalizing new font choices for their business cards, and brainstorming disruption strategies for the next big event. The coughing was Mr. Weedman. None of you have earned a seat at this table. Hi, this writer's name is Patrick Marvellius, and I would like to take this opportunity to say as loudly as I can that I, the countless others, have risked my life, my freedom, my reputation, and my livelihood for the sake of being able to smoke and grow cannabis. I grew up just outside the Emerald Triangle, and I've spent the better half of my last 10 years working on grows, trimming, making hash rosin, and growing for myself and everything in between. I've even been robbed, threatened, extorted, nearly killed more times than I can remember. Not once during that time did I ever see any of you pocket protector wearing, rule-following weirdos in those hills risking life and limb with the rest of us. I really need to get this off my chest because this Bush League shit has gone too far. A multi-billion-dollar industry existed for 60-plus years in the shadows because you sorry fuckers, or your parents for that matter, insisted that it remain there. Your friends didn't go to prison for growing a plant. Ours did. You didn't have to risk multiple felony charges every time you got in your car. We did. A lot of growers still do that to this day, for that matter. Weed has been legal in California since 2018, and I can't even smoke a joint in my backyard without overhearing my neighbor tell her children that I am disgusting. All that hard work, all that risk for minimum reward, all the helicopters coming to terrorize actual children in the middle of the night for decades was all for nothing because you people swooped in with your war machines, Excel spreadsheets, PowerPoints, and all that corporate bullshit and left the victims of the drug wars out to starve. Still to this day, people in the Triangle who don't even grow weed have helicopters circling directly above their backyards every single year. Does that seem normal to anyone? Does it seem fair that the legacy growers, in lieu of compensation or even basic acknowledgement of their work, have received abatement notices and annual police raids instead? To make matters worse, the rural communities that built the cannabis industry and quietly flourished alongside it had their businesses and livelihoods taken by a bunch of asshole lizard people from Palo Alto. Do you even know how many of my favorite hill restaurants closed down in the last 10 years? I'm not even aggravated when I say it's at least 5. They're all being bled dry. Even the non-growers who just want to live in the mountains are struggling. Cannabis is the backbone of rural America, whether anyone wants it to be or not. And rural America is not doing very well right now. Now all you skim milk drinking cretins are going to your respective state legislators whining all the livelong day about the black market, traditional market, illicit market, stealing your business. First of all, losing business to someone playing with less than 100 plants when you're playing with thousands of lights and millions of dollars is pathetic. Second of all, can you even blame legal weed in 2022? Or can you even blame the traditional market? Why would any of you financially literate people want to throw their hat into this game? The legal game. Anyone who graduated to 3rd grade can understand that what a red downward arrow on a graph means. All you farmers taking your businesses are breaking even at the best every year for the same reason why I'm writing this article. We simply love cannabis and we don't want you anywhere near it. For the sake of efficiency and to perfectly be clear who I'm referring to, if I'm ever be crowned king for the day, anyone who makes the following list will be charged with high treason and sent to Madagascar to be used in a barbaric gene splicing experimentation. Everyone on LinkedIn, every damn last one of you. All you Patrick Bateman-esque suits spending thousands of dollars on boots at every event, only to lose money every quarter because all of your products fall on deaf ears. We journalists that have never worked for a cannabis company and barely smoke if they smoke at all. Anyone who uses the term scalability, you also qualify for this if Coldplay's Viva La Vida start playing in your head when you jerk off. Anyone who has never committed so much as one misdemeanor or a petty crime in the name of the cannabis industry. Marketing vultures who pester cannabis journalists to cover MSOs. You're a thieving band of godless TikTokers, and I'd rather eat live hornet's nest than do your PR for you. Concentrate makers who continually make CRC and distillate despite being unloved by God and their own children. If your name happens to be Chad, Brad, Todd, I realize this is a couple of bad egg situation, but I'm sorry. You all need to get the fuck out. And there was another good podcaster here in Illinois named Chillinois, and he did this fucking awesome video last week about corporate cannabis and Chads, Brads, and Todds, and all you fucking Harvard elites in the cannabis industry. Unbelievable. Check him out. Every single one of you assholes who made felons out of multiple generations of people only to show up once the wrist was gone and say, nice house, we'll be moving in now. Everyone on that list is walking up the steps we built with our bare hands and simultaneously complaining that the steps aren't up to code. Now we have metric shit, tons of garbage cannabis that doesn't sell, events you can't even fucking smoke at, and that head ass CEO who won't let it go, that almost nobody wants to drink their weed. I don't even remember his fucking name. I don't remember any of your names for that matter. I don't remember you knockoff strains or your god-awful mold-infused pre-rolls. I don't remember your renamed gelatos, and I especially don't remember the strains with a Z in the name that doesn't taste anything like real Z. I don't want your business. I don't want you reading my stories, and I frankly just don't want any of you here at all. Man, holy smokes. That said, I'm fully aware of this, how these things are and how they're going to stay. But to the specific group I'm talking about, let me assure you that your days making a viable income playing this poor man's game of copycat are numbered. Everyone that we considered big money in weed right now sucked in whatever industry that they started in, so they figured they'd bring it to the same dazzling average business tactics to an industry full of pot-smoking illiterates and clean up nicely. Don't seem to be going too well for most of you, does it? It'll be going even worse for you when federal legalization happens and the real money comes in. Now, to be fair, it's going well for almost no one right now, but the OGs who have been out here risking everything every season just to grow the best weed they can will all survive for years to come because they've seen much worse than this, and they have a customer base that is loyal to the fault. So, the point is, every single company that I named or talking about in this article, I'm not naming them. You can read the article. They have a reputation that precedes them, which lets them know they deserve to be playing at the level they are. I'm not sure why. Maybe they don't smoke enough. Maybe they're too busy asking the CEO of Tilray to autograph the copy of Rich Dad Poor Dad. The world may never know. There are growers known all over the world who refuse to run more than 10 lights per room because they are all concerned with their quality. They're growing the loudest weed this side of the Mississippi, but the only people that know about them are the people who understand what quality is. The real smokers will always pay twice as much to their buddy with one light tent if the weed is better, and it almost always is. The price of real top-shelf pounds from trusted brands is extremely high, and those $1,200 organic ounces you hear about in LA are 100% real, even if they are overhyped. You can't fake the love. So, let's get to the end here. However, I want to be clear as possible when I say you all need us more than we need you. We did fine for years without you, and we will continue to outperform and undercut you at every turn until you give us the rule book we can live with. That's all I'm asking for. Release the weed prisoners. Give the legacy market a substantial leg up in the legal market. Require these big MSOs to hire felons. Vote for direct-to-consumer sales. and stop taxing growers back to the Stone Age so they can afford to feed their families. That was a pretty fucking really good article. And there's a little bit more to it. We'll post it. Probably about 4 or 5 more paragraphs. But that dude went the fuck off. I mean, he went fucking off. And I don't blame him. I don't blame him. Because everything that I see and everything I read and everything I talk about and everything I see people posting about, it's just, I mean, it's everything he said in that article. People I follow, that's what they're talking about right now in different ways. So I do love the Brad, Chad, and Todd. Because it's true. They don't even like weed. They like another drug instead. It happens to go up your nose.
Okay.
It's true. It's true. That fucking article knocked it on its head. Anyway, there's going to be an eyeball scanning coming soon, isn't there, Mrs. Weedman?
There may be.
To see if you're driving stoned.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
Well, cops may soon be able to scan your eyeballs to see if you're driving stoned. A Montana-based company called Gaze has developed a device that can scan the user's eye and utilize crazy futuristic robot intelligence to detect THC impairment. According to the company's founder, Ken Fitchler, American law enforcement agencies have already agreed to use the technology, though he could not specify which ones. I'll preface all of this by saying I am pro-cannabis. I'm pro-cannabis legalization. I'm doing this because I see a distinct need at the federal level to have some product to detect impairment so we can keep the roads safe, Fitchler said. The device is akin to a virtual reality headset of sorts that a police officer would hypothetically place over the head of a driver suspected of being high. It shrouds the suspect in darkness for a few moments before shining a bright light to electronically scan the movement of suspect's eyeballs. The eyes are the window to the soul. The eyes offer a remarkably clear picture into the mental state of a person. They're full of involuntary micro movements and reflex responses that transmit information about someone's impairment or sobriety, the Gaze website states. According to Fitchler, the scan cannot be used as evidence in court, much like a traditional breathalyzer, but police officers can use it in the field if they suspect someone is high to take their own bias or opinion out of the equation completely. Gaze cannot yet quantify impairment like a traditional breathalyzer does, but it can essentially indicate if the person is intoxicated enough for their eye to respond to stimulus differently than it normally would. You can't simply measure THC and say, yeah, okay, this guy's high because he's got 5 nanograms of THC in his body, right? It just doesn't work that way. What we're doing is actually directly measuring how impairment manifests in the body, which I think is a much more rational, measured, and fair path moving forward. Fitchler said the test is based on several different studies which have spanned the last 40 years, including a 350-patient clinical trial that Gaze conducted themselves. A cursory search of how cannabis affects eye movement does indeed show several peer-reviewed studies on the matter dating back to at least 1979. As with most scientific studies, there's a lot of room for misinterpretation or error, but try as I might, I could not find much to dispute the science behind this technology. It turns out that eyeballs are just dirty little snitches that will sell stoners out at every turn. There are a lot of changes that happen, and a lot of them happen at a scale that a human couldn't necessarily see unless we're looking really close or even using a magnifying glass or something. Our product is sensitive enough that we can detect these really minute changes, Fitchler said. He did make a point of saying Gaze will not be selling this technology arbitrarily, but if you work a dangerous job or like to get high in the morning on your commute, you may find yourself staring into the bright light of a Gaze headset soon. He was not able to provide high times with an estimated date that law enforcement agencies might begin to roll out the use of this headband, but for what it's worth, he seemed to speak with the voice of a man who had signed one or more non-disclosure agreements, rather than a man waiting for orders to start coming in. It's being evaluated by some really high-profile departments, Fischler said. They haven't all adopted it yet, but some have. My hope is that within a couple of years, maybe this will be sort of a standard practice. That's very interesting.
Very.
So they're not looking to detect how much THC, like there's this, like with alcohol, the number is across the board.
Right.
If you score
0.08.
right, and you're drunk.
Right.
But with THC, they recognize that it doesn't really, the amount of THC doesn't necessarily equal the level of intoxication or being high, right? So it's testing more like your reactions and your responses and your emotions, like through your eyes.
That's creepy.
To see if they're like delayed or maybe overactive or underactive.
Well, I mean, can't get away with it if you got bloodshot eyes.
I could say you have allergies.
That's true.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll
It'll
see.
be interesting. That first article I talked about, this next article, I'm not going to read it. We're going to post it because it's public knowledge. Cannabis companies convey financial reports. If you are a financially traded company, companies post their financials quarterly, and you as a person can go on and look at a company's financial because they're publicly traded. So whether or not you have money invested in them or not, you could still publicly go and look at what income is coming in. So there's like a U.S. dollar reporting with all the cannabis companies here, the Canadian, the junior, and there's a lot of minuses, a lot of negative going on in a lot of these cannabis companies. So, but we'll post it so you can take a look at it. It's Cannabis Companies Convey Financial Reports. So if you want to see what some of these players are doing, some of these corpo cannabis companies are doing, you can take a look at it. So, but now here's the real good stuff. Can you be fired in the state of Illinois for being high at work? The Illinois Right to Privacy in the Workplace Act. Now, we watched that show about the guy that goes to all the different prisons around the world.
Yes.
And he calls it privacy. Is it privacy or privacy?
It depends on where you're from.
I know. I like privacy, though. It's
Yeah.
very, cool saying, I guess.
Well, then say it.
Privacy.
I mean, everyone will be like, what are you talking about?
Exactly. So basically, the Illinois Right to Privacy or Privacy in the Workplace Act makes it unlawful for an employer to refuse to hire or discharge any individual or to disadvantage as a compensation or terms of employment because the individual uses lawful products off-premise of the employer during non-working and non-call hours. Can you drive while high in Illinois? This means workers can't be punished if they use marijuana on their own time, as long as they don't use it at work or show up to work under the influence. Employers are still legally allowed to have zero tolerance policies for workplace cannabis use. Okay? The Cannabis Regulation and Tax Act does not prohibit an employer from adopting reasonable zero tolerance or drug-free workplace policies, or employment policies concerning drug testing, smoking, consumption, storage, or use of cannabis in the workplace or while on call, provided that the policy is applied in a non-discriminating manner. Employers can and still have policies related to drug testing, smoking, or consuming cannabis while at the workplace or performing job duties, and can prohibit an employee from using or being under the influence of cannabis while at work. And yes, you can be fired. But you cannot be fired if you're using cannabis at home. However, can I smoke weed in my yard in Illinois? It depends. However, employers must have reasonable determination that an employee is actually under the influence at work, which can include documenting coordination problems, demeanor, unusual behavior, or carelessness on the job. State law says that cannabis cannot be smoked in public places such as hospitals, governments, places, streets, and parks, and federal parks too, don't forget, according to Healthcare Weekly. Residents are able to smoke at private residencies, though, which include their home or friends' homes, or multiple friends' homes, or hop, skip, and a jump to a friend's house to smoke a bowl with. You can go to multiple friends' houses in one day and smoke. Your home or their home. Families' homes. However, it cannot be done in front of a minor, if present. That's tough. So, but it's crazy because you can drink in front of a minor. Right? Mm-hmm. You go to restaurants all the time and you have a fucking beer in front of your kid.
Right.
Right? You have a party in your backyard with friends and family in the privacy of your own home, the privacy, and you can have beers in front and liquor and whatever. But you can't smoke a joint. You can smoke cigarettes in front of your kids in the privacy of your own home. But you can't smoke a joint. Illinois residents over 20 years of age can possess 30 grams of cannabis flower, 500 milligrams of THC-infused cannabis products, or 5 grams of cannabis concentrate. Just in case if you were wondering. I thought it was interesting, especially now I could just go to my neighbor's house and smoke weed and no one could say shit about it. Kind of cool. Just blow big clouds everywhere you want in your neighborhood, as long as you're smoking on your property. MJBizCon just happened a couple weeks ago. And Mrs. Weedman and I talked about going just to go check it out. We didn't make it. But here is a woman's perspective, because you talked about going by yourself. So, but what is a woman's perspective, this writer who was there? I was interested because I thought this was great.
Yeah, I had total FOMO when I started seeing everyone posting that they were there. I was like, oh, I knew I should have gotten tickets and gone. Right? But
you said it.
I did.
But now reading this article.
This is a woman's perspective on MJBizCon 2022. So for anyone who might not be familiar with that, that is the cannabis convention for professionals in whether it's cultivation centers, growers, seeds, whatever, retail, packaging, brands, all of it across the board. Everybody gets together, business to business, business to consumer, finding, wholesale products, whatever. And then there's a lot of breakout sessions, guest speakers, things like that. So
hotel parties,
lots
after
of promotion, after parties, private parties. So pretty cool. So this was just 2 weeks ago. So Cannabis Week just came to a close, and like every year, there was so much to learn and observe at the nation's largest business-to-business industry conference. One thing that stayed in the back of my mind while going into the show was an article that I had read after last year's event, The Boys Club, a female perspective on Cannabis Week in Vegas. Now, let me preface this article by saying that my goal is never to discredit another woman's experience, but in the last few MJBizCons I've attended, I have not experienced the level of toxic masculinity that was described in this article. This year, I made it a point to keep an eye out for some of the issues that Gordon discussed, my Lord.
You stoned.
So, what was my female perspective on MJBizCon? Let's discuss it. About the conference. Let's quickly cover the basics of how the convention went from a more general standpoint. First of all, it was noticeably smaller and less busy than last year's event. As a member of the press with more of a bird's eye perspective here, my initial take was that business might be slowing down for many companies. Considering the oversupply issues on the West Coast and the overall struggles facing the industry, that's an easy conclusion to reach. However, when talking to people individually, I was pleased to find that nearly everyone reported better networking opportunities and larger deals being closed than in prior years. As far as who was there, the convention floor was split in 4 pavilions. The busiest areas seemed to be in the pre-roll, paper, blunt wrap sector, as well as packaging. Add to that, the High Times after party with Method Man and Redman was so much fun. Aside from the implication food would be provided, and sadly, it was not, the party was everything we anticipated it would be and more. A fun, laid-back atmosphere with smoking, drinking, music, and socializing with great people. A boys' club? Well, now on to more pressing issues. What does it feel like to be a woman attending the MJBizCon in Las Vegas? Honestly, in my opinion, it feels like being a woman at most other cannabis industry conventions in the United States. There's a certain vibe in Vegas that has some people acting a bit more extreme than they would in their hometowns or other cities, but that's to be expected. And let's be honest, it's one of the reasons many of us enjoy Vegas conventions so much. I also have to add that I have the benefit of having lived in Sin City for a few years during my early 20s, so I'm relatively accustomed to the madness. Regarding the article from last year, this was a quote that really stuck out to me. A frat boy party culture has begun to permeate the legal industry, distracting the narrative from the true potential of plant medicine. A culture where blatant sexism and harassment are commonplace, and testosterone-fueled pissing matches have become more prevalent. A culture, while perhaps a product of our society, is on track to potentially destroy the integrity and passion that generations of legacy operators have built in the shadows. And while sexism in the industry is nothing new, it's become more visible than ever before, thanks in part to legalization. Now, I can't say there is no truth to what was claimed here. Some industries have a crazier air about them, and cannabis is just one of those industries. And we all know that some people can be downright creepy and inappropriate. But overall, I found most of the men I spoke to were respectful, focused, and there to talk business like the rest of us. It might just be my opinion, but I do believe that because MJBiz Daily, the news site that operates the convention, was founded by a woman, it serves as a reminder of how much we can accomplish in the industry. There's a massive level of respect for founder and former CEO Cassandra Farrington. As we all know, the convention will not be possible without her and her team of strong women that help build it from the ground up. So, the female representation in cannabis at the convention. One thing that Gordon mentioned, which I also find disturbing, is the dwindling number of women in upper-level positions in the cannabis industry. This wasn't the case a few years back. To the contrary, female representation was greater in the cannabis industry than the general populace. But according to MJBiz Daily's most recent Women and Minorities in the Cannabis Industry report, female executive representation is down to 22% right now, at an all-time low, from just under 37% in 2019. And now, it's also well below the national average of roughly 30%. That's bad. The cause for this drop remains a mystery, but it's concerning nonetheless. Not only is it disappointing on a human rights level, but according to a recent study, companies with women in executive positions are 30% more likely to outperform other companies. So the lack of representation is disappointing on a financial level also. My final thoughts. Once more, my intention is not to discredit anything that other women may have gone through, but I do feel it's important to offer multiple different views on the subject, so people, especially women, don't make the decision not to attend based on someone else's experience. Like it was stated in Gordon's article, many claimed that they would be skipping MJBiz altogether because they know what happens there nowadays and they don't want to be part of it. But it's worth keeping in mind that the majority of people seem to have a good time and many important deals were struck. It's still the best place to keep up with current industry trends and get your business name out there. So with that being said, we hope to see you all at MJBizCon 2023.
What'd you think?
Yeah, that was surprising.
Yeah. It was a good article.
Yeah, I think it's really disappointing that percentage of female executives just so how fast it's shifted, because it was really a female-driven business in the beginning.
We've been talking about that for almost 2 years now.
And now it's like
it's dropped 20. Even more. Yeah. So
ridiculous.
Oklahoma's next big election will ask voters to legalize recreational cannabis. Oklahoma, let's do it. Idaho activists launched signature drive to put medical cannabis legalization on 2024 ballot. Let's go, Idaho. Iowa regulators recommend cannabis task force be formed to explore federal exemption for state's medical program. Nevada cannabis regulators announced lotteries for state's first consumption lounge licenses. Pretty dope. Illinois needs to get with the program. Rhode Island adult use cannabis sales launch next week.
Cool.
Pretty awesome. It's great. Good for them. Gen Z.
Yep.
You know, I like Gen Z because we're Generation X, and then there's millennials, and then there's Gen Z. And that's the generation that is like looking at things at a different perspective of life.
Yeah. So,
I'm reading this article and also reading about a couple other things. I'm impressed. Our daughter O-Dog is the first of that Gen Z generation, and she's fucking traveling the world.
She's a trailblazer.
Fucking just said, fuck it. You know, I'm going to go live life for a while before I start a career and start a family. I'm going to take my time and do what I need to do. She's out touring the world. It's great.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of Gen Zers see their parents being frustrated because they work for 40, 50, 60 hours a week. They're never home. They get their ass handed to them. They're broke. And they don't want to be like that. They love their parents. They respect their parents, or they honor their parents, one of the three, or all three. But I think the Gen Zers look at life being short than we think it is, and they want to see how far they can push themselves in life in a different way, not in a job way, but in a living kind of way. Does that make sense? Am I making sense?
Yeah. We always say, if only we could live life backwards and, you know, have your retirement and then start your career when you're like 55. But there's no affordability to do that.
Right.
But I mean, why can't we live the best years of our life when we're the youngest? Like, why just wise enough and just old enough to be independent enough, right, to go and adventure and just travel and see and learn and get to know yourself and get to know where in the world you belong as a human and what you really are here to do. Yeah. Instead of just rolling yourself into school because, you know, you read a book when you were 8 and it sounded like it was a good idea to be a doctor. You know what I mean? It's just backwards. So, yeah, more power to them. There's a whole bunch of them in that generation that are just living, and they'll figure out adulting when they are adulting.
When it comes times to
get professional and get to work. And
they might not even want to be a professional after it's all said and done. They might find something else.
Or, just to get situated in one place and just have a job, right? Maybe we'll never do it.
Job just means just over broke for all you out there in the world.
So uplifting. Yeah. Well.
So be better than a job.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say. Be better than a job. Gen Zers are trying to be better than a job.
There you go. And Gen Z gives up drinking. So cash.
And smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
I just read that too.
That doesn't surprise me.
They rather smoke more weed than cigarettes. And you said what?
Shrooms.
No, they rather smoke more weed than smoke cigarettes. And what else did you just say?
Oh, they gave up drinking.
Drinking.
Yeah.
Fucking shrooms. Yeah. They're not giving up shrooms. What are you talking about?
They want more of them.
They're trying to bring psychedelics into the world.
Yeah. Cash-strapped consumers have stopped spending on alcohol. According to Morning Consult, self-reported alcohol spending fell 15% from February to March as consumers began feeling the bite of inflation. And year-over-year spending across all categories of alcohol, from wine to liquor to beer to malt beverages and hard seltzers, fell 26 to 34%. The declines are especially pronounced among millennials, which is the youngest generation in the study, falling by 36% since last October. DrinkAware concurs in a 2019 study finding that UK consumers 16 to 25 are more likely to be sober than those over 25. And about a quarter of this demographic aren't drinking at all. And a 2018 report by Berenberg Research shows that Gen Z is consuming less alcohol than previous generations. Their interest in beer has declined most precipitously, making Gen Z the first generation to prefer liquor to beer. What's driving Gen Z's rejection of alcohol? For starters, they're a health and fitness-obsessed generation, and drinking makes it harder for them to attain their wellness goals. In addition, they're a generation concerned about safety and social propriety, and they're aware that the risk of assault or harassment increases with every drink. They're also avoiding pressuring peers into unsafe and unhealthy activities, so there's less hazing and encouragement of binge drinking. That whole chug, just have one more thing. Secondly, many young adults now favor cannabis over alcohol. According to a Technomic survey reported in Restaurant Business Online, in states where pot is legal, about 2/3 of Gen Z consumers are smoking it, and about half are drinking it. I'm going to choke here. In the form of cannabis-infused beverages. I need some water. All right, I'm back. Okay, about 2/3 of Gen Z consumers are smoking it, and about half are drinking it in the form of cannabis-infused beverages. Smoking pot is seen as a carb-free, calorie-free alternative to drinking beer, with the added benefit of being considered natural and organic. And few bar brawls have ever broken out after a long night of smoking weed versus doing shots. Finally, Gen Z are the first digital natives, and it's much cooler to be sober online than intoxicated. In the Studio 54 era of the 1970s, nobody was recording all of your shenanigans with a cell phone and posting it online.
So true.
Today, it's much harder to have a wild night out without the world seeing it.
100%.
And everything you said and did coming back to haunt you forever. I never thought about that. Conversely, there are whole online communities for the sober curious in support of movements like Dry January. So how can brands better connect with this sober generation? They're promoting energy drinks. Other than cannabis, uppers are in and downers are out. Gen Z has a lot to get done and powers through their day with coffee, tea, and energy drinks and herbal supplements. Considering cannabis. Now that recreational cannabis is increasingly legal, consider cannabis-infused beverages, edibles, and supplements with THC. The beverage of the future isn't Budweiser. It's a cannabis-infused soda.
I wouldn't say it's not Budweiser, because Budweiser
They'll probably make one.
They'll buy a company or make something, so it's not that it's not the future, but I get what they're saying.
They're saying not beer.
Right.
And then providing alternatives to alcohol and provide resources for those who are sober curious, even if they're just experimenting with Dry January or abstaining one day a week in favor of a healthy alternative. So that's interesting.
Very, and that's where all the marketing money's going to generate towards the Gen Zers. That's the next wave of, so they're companies planning on marketing towards them and gearing towards them because they see the trends and how fast it changes.
Right.
You know, I mean, Generation X was, we smoked weed, but it was underground, but we drank a shit ton of beer. We loved our beer. Every Generation Xer I know loves beer. You go to millennials, kind of started changing a little bit. Beer, they went to craft beer and cocktails.
Right. Oh yeah, craft beer too.
Yeah, and then you have the Zers who just like psychedelics and weed and stuff that puts them in a different mood. They don't like being angry, mean, drunks, as you just read. They don't like. They're afraid
just
to be
more self-aware.
They're afraid to be. Yeah, they're afraid to be filmed though. They're self-aware because of social media, and also because they have the internet and the information is in the palm of their hand. They can get something which we had to go to an encyclopedia to look up and read, and it took us hours to find something.
Or you just didn't ever find out.
Or you never found out. You'd ask your dad, and be like, "Don't they teach you that in school?" No, they don't. That's why I'm asking you. So now today you have your information overload. It's great if you use it the right way. So, I mean, I like the Generation Zers. I relate to them because they remind me of the Generation Xers. They're just doing a little bit more than I wish we would have done.
And they like just grazed cell phone usage, because it really wasn't until like junior, senior year of high school that they would have a phone on them all the time.
Right.
and texting and picture taking was hardly even on. I mean, you had to have like a big data package, right?
Yeah. So I mean, they got in the I mean,
no, they probably could do, but it's changed.
Yes,
a lot. Yeah,
Big
and they
time.
didn't have. They weren't in electronics until they were at least, let's say, like
Some.
15.
Right. There wasn't an iPad in most of their hands.
Right.
Maybe the somewhat generation now, yes, but I mean our
But
O
Gen
dog,
Z, they
O
weren't.
dog,
Yeah.
O dog didn't have one. She didn't get her phone until she was like in 8th grade. So 7th grade or some shit.
But they couldn't do anything on them.
No, text. That was it.
You had to push like to get the letter
push the
Y.
number,
You had to be
right.
like 999.
Gosh, I hated that back
Remember?
then. Yes, it was terrible.
Okay.
International news. India-based company to offer sanitary pads made from cannabis plants. I think that's pretty awesome. Himalayan Hemp has set its sights on twin goals of serving women and helping the environment by developing sanitary pads made from cannabis. Calling itself the world's first hemp cooperative focused on creating a holistic community around indigenous cannabis hemp. India-based Himalayan Hemp is set to produce high-quality organic and sanitary napkins also, and N95 masks too. So that's pretty
cool.
good. That's dope. That's good. It's going to save so much on the environment. Man, everybody. Here's another thing. In India, police blame rats for disappearance of 500 kilograms of cannabis. I believe there's some kind of rat, but it ain't a rat fucking eating it. Not 500 kilograms. I mean, come
They'd be
on.
finding,
That's
like-
that's 1,100 pounds.
There's no way. Nice try.
Listen, that shit got sold on the traditional market out the back door to all the bang makers there in India, because it's illegal to sell it or whatever. There's bang makers though throughout the whole entire country though, which we've read on the show what bang is, and so somebody like got 1,100 pounds and ain't no little rat. It's another kind of rat. So, come on now. Poland, cannabis for everyone. Poland has some of Europe's most restrictive drug laws, but lax medical cannabis rules have healthy people lining up for prescriptions. That's pretty awesome. I want to go smoke weed in Poland. In the summertime, not in the wintertime. So good for you, Poland. Now legalize it. Once Germany does, though, it's all over. They'll follow suit because that's what they're following. They're following the German medical way. Remember I told you once Germany's stuff does, most of Europe follows because they set the precedent when it comes to medical stuff, I guess, from what I read in the past. So I love Louis Armstrong. Phenomenal just musician all around. And I posted this article, but I wanted Mrs. Weedman to read it. And it's about, because we've talked about the jazz age, and we've talked about, this is where the song Viper comes from, and why I always say Viper, from that era. And Louis Armstrong's a phenomenal jazz player. Did not know he was good friends with Bing Crosby, though. I'm sure they knew each other, but I didn't know he was good friends with them. I think that's awesome. So there's a documentary. Talk about Louis Armstrong and his life with weed.
Well, Louis Armstrong loved cannabis and didn't care who knew it. There's a new documentary that looks at jazz legends' life and art. When jazz legend and New Orleans native Louis Armstrong died in his sleep on January 6th, 1971, in his Queens, New York home, late CBS broadcaster Walter Cronkite said, "We aren't saying goodbye to Louis tonight because a man's music does not die with him. Certainly not this man's." Sasha Jenkins' new documentary, Black and Blues. Oh,
Dying tonight, huh? Mm-hmm. You all right?
yeah. I am. I'm just dying.
You didn't take your Ricola before the show, did you?
Yeah, I didn't lubricate my throat. Little honey. All right. Sasha Jenkins' new documentary, Black and Blues, which is streaming on Apple TV Plus, looks at the life and art of Louis Satchmo Armstrong, who is widely credited with helping found jazz with his trumpet sound, unique singing voice, and his popularizing scat singing. Armstrong was enormously influential, and it's difficult to find another musician who has left such an enduring mark on the industry and the world in recent memory, says Doc NYC reviewer Abe Friedtanzer. With the help of Armstrong's private audio tapes and never be seen before footage, Jenkins' film reveals a complicated man from a deeply impoverished childhood in New Orleans, who quietly pushed back against racism and intolerance. Armstrong, a regular cannabis consumer, is regarded as among the first proclaimed medical marijuana users. He called it a healthy alternative to alcohol and said it was essential in helping him sleep and concentrate. An early cannabis legalization advocate who first went to jail for weed for possession in 1931, Armstrong's activism also shone a light on racism, beginning in the 1950s. This earned him unwanted attention from the FBI, who opened a secret file on him. When Armstrong learned that his friend Bing Crosby, also an outspoken anti-booze cannabis proponent, had gotten a waiver to grow weed, and Armstrong wanted the same opportunity. In 1954, he wrote a letter to President Dwight Eisenhower asking him to legalize marijuana. No word on whether Ike responded. Eisenhower did, however, react to Armstrong's choice words in a 1957 interview heard around the world. Armstrong blasted the president for doing nothing about the violent action of Arkansas Governor Orville Faubus, who called out the National Guard to prevent 9 black teens from attending a local all-white high school in Little Rock. 1 week after the interview was published, Eisenhower sent 1,200 paratroopers from the 101st Airborne into Little Rock. The next day, soldiers escorted the 9 students into Little Rock's Central High School. The event was a milestone in U.S. civil rights history, and Armstrong publicly thanked President Eisenhower. So check the show out on Apple TV+.
We don't have Apple TV.
No.
Man, that sucks. Are you stoned or high? Are you stoned or high?
Right now,
Are you stoned or high?
I'm high.
You're high?
Right now, yeah.
Do you know what the difference is?
No.
No? That's why I chose this article. When it comes time to weed, terminology can be important. You might smoke and be stoned, or you might smoke and be high. I've smoked and I've been cooked.
Baked.
No, baked is there, but I've been cooked.
Cooked.
Like where I'm
Fried.
I'm just cooked. There's nothing left. I got nothing. So, if you're unsure how these 2 states of mind vary, here's a guide. Why we get stoned or high. Cannabis contains the compound called THC, which we all know is the psychoactive property of THC. That means it alters our mental state and how we view the world. I feel we view the world better when we're stoned. Of course, different cannabis strains deliver different effects, including more or less intensive highs, making you feel relaxed or euphoric, or depending on the bud, like Mrs Weedman right now. The notion of being couch-bound or stoned relates to that moment when you cannot get up and you're in a deep state of relaxation. The words high and stone have been used ever since cannabis has been used as a recreational item. There's also the idea of being buzzed, which is slightly briefer but nonetheless distinct sensation. And that's where the start is. Are you buzzed? Before you get high or become stoned, you may feel a little buzzed. This is when the intoxicating nature of cannabis first hits you and creates a kind of a rush or change in perception. It can last just a few seconds or a few minutes, and it usually followed by the settling into a more constant high. The intensity of the buzz will depend on several factors, such as the type of cannabis you are using, the method of taking it, smoking, vaping, edibles, dabbing, lions and tigers and bears, oh my, and your only personal state of mind at that time. Symptoms of being buzzed when you get the giggles or feel that initial rush of euphoria. It can happen within minutes of taking a toke from a joint or much longer if you're trying edibles. The next step is getting high. How quickly and how high you get is influenced by a wide range of factors. Once you feel the initial buzz, the high is certainly the next stage. It's longer and deeper and can last for up to 3 to 4 hours depending on how you are ingesting your cannabis and also depending on the strain. Let's get on to one thing straight. The high you feel will be personal. While there are or may be common symptoms for different types of cannabis strains you experience will be your own, and everyone is different.
Like right now, we both are different levels of high maybe, but equally incapable of reading.
Very true.
Could you just not, I could not get in a rhythm with reading.
I've been reading just fine until that one word, while screwed me up. You may feel highly sociable, or you may or might become more introspective. You may have a creative fever or simply want to relax, kick back with your feet up and watch some Groove Tube or listen to some tunes. Some people experience heightened anxiety levels, but that is usually down to the potency of the cannabis being taken or because you have overdone things. We've all been there. While most of the effects of the high is psychological, there will be certain physical manifestations such as red eye and dry mouth, often called cotton mouth.
Yes.
The worst. That's the only thing I could say that I dislike about cannabis is that I get cotton mouth quite often. Not all the time, but quite often.
There's these new mints that apparently you just rest it on your tongue and you instantly are like salivating.
Really?
Yes.
Is it the ginger ones you've been eating all the time now?
No, I haven't bought them yet. I think you have to order them online.
Oh, order them.
I just saw like the ad pop up.
Let's try it.
Oh.
It makes me drink more water, so I don't mind. You know, I mean, I get my 64 ounces a day because of being stoned, and being cottonmouth, so I don't mind it. But there's times where I'm talking like where we're doing the show, and I'm like, fuck, I need some water. So,
like my coughing tonight.
In general, though, being high relates to feeling of positivity with everything moving quickly. That's why it's a good time to be creative or discuss weighty matters. The final stage, you may be stoned. Once everything starts to slow down, you may be approaching a stoned period, stony baloney as I like to call it. It usually means you don't want to get up and do anything, and occurs when you have taken enough cannabis or strong enough strain to tip you over the edge of a high into a deeper state of intoxication. This is often when you will start to feel lethargic, but also hungry, and you might require some snacks to keep the munchies away. Not everyone who gets high will end up getting stoned. A lot depends on the type of cannabis strain and the amount you take. If you do enter the stoned age or stage, there's a lot you can do to expect to wait for it to pass. So, what affects whether you get stoned or high? The type of strain you use will certainly influence how your body reacts. The method that you prefer to administer can also have an effect. Dabbing a high THC concentrate may produce an immediate powerful high, whereas smoking a joint will produce a gradually increasing high that slowly turns into being stoned. Edibles can produce a similar high, but will take much longer to kick in. So, can you control whether you get stoned or high? To a certain extent, you can. It depends on the type of cannabis you choose to start with or how you ingest it. Like we always say, start low and go slow. You can always take more. Can't go back. Some are better at getting you stoned quickly or helping you remain high. The amount you use is also important, and even a low strain can get you pretty stony baloney if you smoke, vape, or dab it enough. And of course, personal biology is going to play a role. So, I will ask you again, Mrs. Weedman, are you stoned or are you high?
I'm stoned.
You stoned?
What are you?
High as a kite. Feeling great. Mrs. Weedman, you got anything else to say?
I need some more water.
Are you out?
I'm like...
Wow, you drank a whole glass of water the whole show?
I had cotton mouth from that stuff. I did, but I'm gonna smoke some more.
Good. I don't know if I'm gonna smoke Kush Mints though. I might smoke something different. I might smoke some more of the hash we smoked last night out of the Zenko.
All right.
The Zenko we smoked out of the
bubbler last night.
Yes, the flow, and it flowed very nicely
Smooth.
with the.
It's nice with the dabs.
Yes, nice with the blueberry yogurt that we're smoking right now. It's very tasteful, very nice. And I also like to thank the Real Spliff Society for giving us a couple of their rolling papers.
Yep.
We are smoking out of the Goji right now, and it's delicious.
Nice,
Thanks, Briggs,
nice.
for that. We appreciate you, buddy. And hey, check him out. He was someone tried to hack his account, so if you get something from him, don't follow him. So, but thanks for the Goji, man, it's delicious. And also thank you to the Zenko for that wonderful device, gizmo. I love it. And we'll be doing some hash in a minute. All right, to everybody out in the world, we love you, man. Thanks for listening. We appreciate everything you do for us, and we appreciate all the feedback, and we thank you for the support of 8decades.com. Check out our website, right, Mrs. Weedman? What you got? As you sneeze. Wow.
Pardon me.
Sneezing.
Ooh.
Sneezing like a breezing.
Sorry, you can't make those go away.
No, that was a good one, though.
Oh.
So, what do you got coming up at the Salt Shed?
We have in Chicago, if you're in the Chicago area on either December 9th or 11th, 8 Decades will have a pop-up shop at the Winter Glow event at the Salt Shed. So check it out. I think it's like $6 to get in. It'll be a winter market, a beer garden, music, I think, like DJs, and it should
We'll be
fun.
outside.
It is outside,
Yeah.
dress warm.
Yeah, dress warm. So it is
Yeah,
a winter
come visit.
market. There'll be food and music and fun. And
Yeah.
and if you find Mr. Weedman, maybe you can go smoke a little joint with him out in the parking
Maybe.
lot. Or in the tent. One or the other. We'll figure it out. Hey, everybody out there in the world, thanks again. We love you. Thanks for listening. We appreciate you around the world. As Paulie always says, smoke smart. Puff, puffing away.
Puff, puff, pass.